Hey y'all, what's up? What's up? What's up? I know it's been a while since I've gone live, and I wanted to get on here and give you some Nolan Wells updates. I've seen a whole lot in the news, in the media, the past couple days, and I want to share my thoughts with you because right now we're hearing that there is an audio that has come out of a 911 call that was made by Nolan Wells' friends. We're also hearing that the parents are going to be suing the friends possibly, and there's potentially foul play that's going to be introduced into this case very soon. So we're going to get into all of it. I'm Tamera. You're watching the Tamera Nealy Show. I'd like to welcome back all my returning subscribers. And if you're new here, I would like to let you know I'm happy you're here. Quickly, let's get into a word of prayer because on this show, we believe that prayer is our first resort and not our last. Lord, I thank you for today, Lord. I pray for Nolan Wells' family. I pray for his community, his friends, Lord. You know the ins and outs of this situation, Lord, and I just pray that the truth prevails and that you know justice be served, in whatever way that it comes about, and whatever that means, because you know the truth ultimately. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, y'all. Hi, everybody. Welcome, everybody in the chat. I'm so happy to be here and be back with y'all. I know that lately I haven't been going live. I looked at my tab the other day and I was like, wow, it's been 3 weeks since I've gone live. And I'm like, I miss y'all so much. I miss having these conversations live with you. And there's just so much happening. That we got to talk, even about just the underage drinking. I kind of want to talk a little bit about that tonight as well, because that's going to be brought up later, more than likely once the toxicology report comes out very soon. Now, I want to start out with this video. Now, this is, hold up one second, I want to do this. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure y'all can still see me, which y'all can. Okay, so this lady, she came out with an audio, and she claims that in this audio you can hear Nolan Wells' friends on a 911 call saying, Nolan, is he dead? Yada, yada, yada. Well, I want to walk through that, and I want to tell you if I can hear the same thing, and I also want to know what y'all can hear. Let's get into it.
Okay, so before I play this, I want to quickly explain what I did, what you're looking at on the screen, and why I chose to approach this audio the way that I did. As a professional audio engineer with experience in dialogue editing, dialogue cleanup, sound design, and post-production, I decided to work on that C-toe call using traditional audio processing techniques rather than relying on any AI voice separation or AI enhancement. My goal was pretty much to preserve as much of the original recording as possible while making the quieter dialogue and background audio easier to hear. So I basically used techniques such as subtractive EQ, compression, gain adjustments, noise reduction, frequency isolation, and other traditional processing methods. So what I did was I separated Vicky, the C-toe dispatcher, from Warren and the audio originating from the boat so that I can concentrate more closely on what was happening behind and around Warren, pretty much on the boat. And I specifically chose not to rely on AI because aggressive AI enhancements and voice.
Now, I can't let this keep going without just going ahead and saying what I know about this situation. Now, I'm still going to listen to the audio. And we're going to listen to it, and I'm going to tell you if I hear something or not. But let's be real. I've done a little bit of research into this lady, and I saw her on a Carmelo Anthony supporters Facebook Live pushing a narrative about this case that seemed obviously counter to the truth and getting down to the facts. And I could tell that she was motivated to kind of make it to where where this audio would obviously paint the friends in a bad light. Now I have to mention that because I know that, and most of you guys know that already. So, but I'm still gonna listen to it. I'll still give you my honest take, but I already know that this lady, I know her background, and I'm sure y'all do too, but let's just keep going.
Isolation tools can sometimes introduce artifacts and distort the speech or create ambiguity around the sounds that were originally present. And for something this serious, I wanted my processing to remain as conservative as possible. You'll also notice time code and dialogue written on the side of the screen and pop up during each segment. That dialogue represents what I personally hear as an audio engineer while processing and repeatedly reviewing these sections. I'm pretty much providing it as a listening reference, not as a declaration that my interpretation is the only possible interpretation. And that's important. I want you to listen for yourself, use headphones if you have them, listen closely, and decide with your own ears what you believe is being said. And you can also return to the original unprocessed recording and compare directly with what you're hearing here. You'll also notice that my time code may not match the regular timestamp on the original uploaded video. And that's because I'm working inside a professional post-production timeline, a digital audio workstation, basically using SMPTE time code, which in film, that's displayed in hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. Film and TV timelines are completely different from timestamps that you see when you're watching regular videos or when you're watching a movie and you hit pause. So basically the time code on the screen is there to identify the precise location within my working session, not to represent the elapsed timestamp displayed by the original video player. And I hope that makes sense. For this first video, I'm sharing only approximately 37 seconds of the call. I originally intended to continue much further, but once I separated the dispatcher from the boat and started concentrating exclusively on the background dialogue, what I believed I was hearing became extremely difficult for me to process emotionally, and I needed to take a mental break. But I wanted to release this portion because some of the details that stood out most to me occur very early in the call, like right at the top of the call. And so I'm gonna let the audio play. Read my transcription if you want to reference, but don't allow it to determine what you hear. I want you to listen first, listen again, compare it with the original recording, and then judge it with your own ears. I hope this breakdown helps.
Okay, so before I listen to it, just to be fair, even though I've already listened to this several times, I listened to it last night while I was, preparing for bed, because I was just like, let me make sure I take some time and I listen to this several times just to make sure I'm getting it, as much as I can, right? And so, but just out of respect for the situation, I'm still going to close my eyes when we listen to this here. And I encourage you guys to do the same. Let me know what you hear. I'm curious. We already know about this lady, but let's just do it. Okay?
I hope this breakdown helps.
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a
So the first part is the most important part, but we can still listen to it through. But to be honest, I might have heard Nolan, but at the same time, I know it wasn't. They probably didn't say Nolan, but because I already to be honest, I've already heard this and I've already seen the transcript, so I got to be honest about my take on it, right? And I could hear Nolan. I can't hear the, is he dead? I can't hear that, and it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, Nolan was not on that boat, okay? Nolan was not on the boat. And if she was paying attention to Officer Tatum's report, to other people to TMZ's report, she would have known that what she thought she was hearing is not what was actually being said. She would know that because we all know that the friends who Ben Crump, Al Sharpton, the parents think were involved actually left before 4 p.m. They left before 4 p.m. Nolan was seen on the island after 4 p.m. So we can kind of throw that out, but to be honest, I did hear Nolan, but I know it wasn't Nolan, right? Obviously, your brain and your ears can kind of deceive you in a situation like this when you're trying to piece out, what am I hearing? What am I hearing? You know? But this audio is bogus, and I know that TMZ has debunked it, which I want to get to in just a second. Let's keep playing it and get to the truth.
Shut up! Shut the fuck up! Damn it, Bart.
Were Nolan Wells' friends talking about him and talking about him possibly being dead while they were on their way back to the mainland from Horn Island? This is all because of some audio that we got from officials down in Mississippi. This audio is a call that's being made from the boat that Nolan's friends were on. So after they're on Horn Island on July 4th, at the end of the day, about 4:30, they decide they're heading back to the mainland. And the owner of that boat, or the grandson of the owner who's driving the boat, realizes that they are taking on water. Their bilge pump isn't working, so he places a call to a tow company called Sea Tow. And while he's on that call, there is a lot of commotion going on. And what people think is that in the background of that call, you can hear someone say, "Is he dead? Nolan. Oh my God." It's really hard to make out. This is what it sounds like.
CETO Assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you? All right, of course. How far is the word coming up, sir?
No, we do not need that.
All right.
I mean, let's run with this. Why would we hear the friend saying, Nolan, is he dead, XYZ, on the phone if they were trying to cover something up? Like, if he was legitimately on the boat during this time and they were participating in a cover-up, why would they say that when they know they're on the phone with 911? I'm just wondering. Does that make any sense to y'all?
No, we do not need that.
Now, there are other parts of the audio where people think they hear the words "check his chest" or "wake up." One thing you can definitely hear clearly is the guy who's calling the tow company says, "Shut the bleep up." Now, he could have been yelling to some people. He does tell the dispatcher that there are about 7 people on board, all of them under the age of 20, under 21, he says. Now, here's what doesn't make sense. If they really were, and again, that audio is very difficult to make out. I mean, you can definitely hear, "Oh my God." The Nolan and Izzy dead part is up to interpretation. What doesn't make sense is why would they, if they had something, if there'd been foul play and something happened to Nolan or someone did something to Nolan on that boat, why would they be talking about it loudly while he's on the phone to a tow company?
Right.
Sam here, and I'm wondering what...
That's true. And something that shocks me is the fact that TMZ was... Hello? Can y'all hear? Wait, hold up, y'all. 1 second. I'm hearing noise and I don't know where it's coming from. Okay, y'all, sorry about that. So earlier today, I had asked my siblings to join my live show because I want to start having guests on, and they joined just now, 2 hours later, to test out the audio to make sure it worked. And I'm like, wait, where's this noise coming from? Sorry about that. Now, that's something that you guys are going to participate in maybe later this week, where you get to call in and, all that stuff. But I was actually just having them call in and test it out. So sorry about that. But anyways, back to where we were. I hope that wasn't too much of an interruption there. I don't even know if y'all heard them, but I just heard somebody talking, and I'm just like, where is that noise coming from? I'm so confused. So that's what that noise was. But anyways, let's get back on track. Okay. So like I was saying, I was actually surprised that TMZ reported on this accurately, and they were the ones who came out and debunked this. Because when I first saw that TMZ came out and commented, I thought that they were going to push the narrative, because I only saw the first part, obviously, of them introducing the topic and things like that. And I'm like, what are they talking about? This is going to be dangerous for the friends. And then they came back and they followed up and they obviously corrected the record. And still, information that's false is floating out there because people are determined to make this case a murder case. Yeah, it's crazy. But anyways, I want you guys to see this clip of this man who was upset with TMZ. And then I have one more clip of this lady kind of explaining what happens when you're reading some, I guess, reading words to an audio, you're reading captions, should I say, and what it does to your brain. So let's check this out.
What TMZ is doing. Charles on TMZ just says the only question he asks is why would they be doing this in the background of an audio knowing that somebody is on the phone with the C-Tow company? And the answer is, haven't you ever been drunk? Haven't you ever been around obnoxious drunk people who all they do is yell at the top of their lungs and they can't hear how loud they're talking? It's called inebriated kids. And here's the thing. It doesn't matter why, it doesn't matter how, it doesn't matter where. We hear what we hear. I don't think anybody is hearing something that isn't there. And
I think people are hearing something that isn't there. It is happening because when you want to believe something and when you are so determined to hear something, your brain will start convincing you that you hear it. And that is exactly why it's important to watch what you think, just in general, not just about this situation. But I think, honestly, that's why the Bible talks about thoughts and things like that. Because when you start thinking something, then you start talking about it. Then you start acting on it, potentially, So the brain has a weird way of making things happen if you want it to. It's a very powerful tool. And to be honest, we only know about 10% of it. So
TMZ, you've been like 3 weeks late on this entire case. You're still pushing the narrative you posted saying, oh, there's been other people who have drowned. Like, who is paying you guys to push this narrative? That's what I don't understand about it. And why, when Ben Crump is accused of lying, there's so much obvious evidence that he wasn't lying. I posted it myself from the United Cajun Navy. He went on Nancy Grace. He said he was fully clothed and face down. Why haven't you guys updated that? Why haven't you guys said Tate Reeves coming after Ben Crump is lying? Why are you not defending the right side of history? You're making us strongly question you, TMZ. And then again, like, why is anybody giving any validation to Officer Race Batum Tatum when we know this clown is just there to comfort white fragility? So TMZ, get your stuff together. You're way late on the game. The independent journalists like us, we are the ones on the right side of history and making this story still stay in the news so we get justice for Nolan Xavier Wells. need to step up, you need to wake up, and you need to take that trash down. Secret Service Sam out, Samson for president of the world.
Not president of the world. Now, I want to know what is wrong. First of all, let me say this. I think most of us want justice for not, I don't know if the correct word is justice, because we don't know if somebody actually murdered Nolan Wells. We don't know for sure. We also don't know if he drowned for sure. It's looking like he potentially more than likely drowned, but I'm about to reveal some more information that has come out that could possibly introduce foul play into the case, but we don't know. So I think that all of us, most of us, want this family to have answers and want the truth to come out. I don't know what's wrong with a lot of these white liberals who, it's like they're pandering. They're pandering to black liberals. They're trying to show that they are social justice warriors and that they aren't racist and this and that. Stop doing that and just focus on the truth. Go wherever the truth leads. Don't go just with the narrative that you think is going to make people feel good. Because when you do that, sometimes it can cause a whole lot of division, and that's what we're seeing. Is a lot of people are either A, staying silent and they're not willing to, share the truth. They're not willing to add a logical perspective because they don't want to upset emotional people. And then you have other people who are just completely loud and wrong. And then you have other people who are just saying, hey, I don't know all the facts. I'm piecing it together as I go, as new information comes out, and I'm not going to jump to conclusions. I'm just waiting to see. And to be honest, I'm in that camp. Because I don't know what happened to Nolan. But I'm not going to sit here and say that this is a race issue. I'm not going to sit here and say that, now Black Lives Matter needs to be in the streets because we need to start demanding justice and this and that. Wait, hold up, wait a minute. There are a lot of cases out here that need to be solved. And a lot of black on black crime is being ignored. A lot of black people don't care unless it involves white on black. If they think it's a white on black crime, even if it's not a crime, it hasn't been proven to be a crime, that's when black people care about it. And I have an issue with that. Because when you have black men killing other black men every single weekend, black people are silent about that. Why? Because it doesn't fit their narrative. Now, the first lady that we watched, she, like I said, was on somebody's Facebook Live, and she was on a Carmelo Anthony supporter's Facebook Live, and I recognized that lady because I saw her at the courthouse when I was covering Carmelo Anthony's trial. As most of you guys know, I was there on the ground, I was in the courtroom, I was in the parking lot, tracking it for you guys, reporting on what was happening there in Frisco, Texas. And this particular lady that the audio engineer was interviewed by was very rude to me at the courthouse. And what I mean by that is I was invited, by the sheriff to sit on the front row of, Carmelo Anthony's trial. And I didn't care to sit on the front row. I preferred to be on the back row, but for whatever reason, he said, you sit right there. And I guess the lady had thought that, she said that she was sitting there, but there were no assigned seats, and obviously a break had happened, and I didn't know. I'm just going off of what the officer said. And she got upset, and she didn't say anything to me. At first, she was just giving me negative looks and things like that. And then we came back from another break, and she took my spot, and she was just like, and she just looked at me and kind of just, and I just said, I'm thinking to myself, you can have it. It's not that serious. She was just very hostile. So I remember that lady. And I thought to myself, when I first saw her, I thought, she's a pretty lady. Every single day she would wear pink to the courthouse. And I didn't have anything against her, but she was automatically hostile because I guess she thought that because I was supporting Austin Metcalf's family and I wanted him to get justice because obviously Carmelo Anthony had stabbed and killed him in the chest, that I was pandering to white people and she couldn't be around me and all of that stuff. And it's unfortunate because at the end of the day, we are all Americans. And I think that people should be acting in good faith. And that's why when I saw that audio engineer on her podcast, I'm like, girl, you're throwing away your credibility right there in my eyes. And obviously, we know the facts that have come out about this case thus far that support the fact that Warren and his friends weren't even on the island when Nolan was last seen. Now, I want to play this clip for you guys, and then let's move on to the next topic. This says Nolan Wells. TMZ says the audio says, "Is he dead? A forensics expert disagrees." Check this out, because I thought this was very important information.
Did TMZ really uncover hidden words in the Nolan Wells distress call? Or are people hearing what they expect to hear or want to hear? A digital forensic expert has stepped in. Expert Robert Fried analyzed the original and the TMZ enhanced version. His team found that TMZ's clip was 20 seconds longer, and the two files had different digital fingerprints, meaning they weren't identical copies. Robert Fried, the expert, said that he could not verify what TMZ is claiming to hear. Even using forensic transcription software, he said nothing...
TMZ obviously corrected the record, so I don't know if she knows that part or what, but I guess they examined that same audio that TMZ shared with everybody.
Close to those words appeared in the analyst. He also explained something called expectation bias. Once someone tells you to listen for a specific phrase, your brain often starts hearing it. Fried also believes that the original that was released is heavily redacted. He says account numbers, phone numbers, and other information had been removed, and he wants to examine the original recording and its metadata before reaching any conclusion. So what do you think? Did TMZ uncover something investigative?
Okay, so that part where she said, you know, your brain can basically start to hear what you want to hear, that's basically what I wanted to show you guys, because I was like, that's true. You know, once you're reading words and you're reading captions and they're saying, listen and tell me what you want or tell me what you hear, your brain's gonna automatically start hearing what they're saying a lot of times, and we got to be honest about that. And that's why I'm like, okay, well, to be honest, I've already read it now, so now I'm, you know, my brain may be tricking me a little bit, but you know, whatever. Now I want to get to this next segment, and I want to talk a little bit about Nolan's parents and kind of what's happening with them, because new information is coming out, and now they want to sue Nolan's friends potentially. And you know, I think, man, this is, you know, it's a tough situation. Obviously, I feel very bad for the parents. It's been hard to kind of talk about some of the things that I've noticed about what the parents are doing, because I feel bad for them. I mean, their son has obviously passed away, and so I feel terrible for them. At the same time, I've got to hold the parents accountable if they're, you know, doing something that may not actually be helpful and may be causing harm to, you know, getting answers for their son. And so that's what I've been doing, and Officer Tatum has been doing, and other people who have been covering the case have been doing, who aren't, you know, pushing the race narrative. Because if you look at a lot of black media sources, unfortunately, they are so fixated on race when it comes to this case. And my thing is that if y'all really want justice for Nolan Wells, you should probably reach out to the people that he was with. And he was with his white friends and some of his black friends. You should be wanting to reach out to all of them and, you know, talk to them, see what they know. But they can't do that because they've been pushing this race narrative so long, and now they've got to keep up with it. And honestly, it's hurting their chances of actually finding out what happened to Nolan, which is unfortunate. Now, this new information has come out, And it says Nolan Wells' family expects to take legal action over his unexplained death, reports. And it says Nolan Wells' family may soon file a lawsuit related to his mysterious death after a large 4th of July party on an island off the coast of Mississippi, according to court records and multiple news outlets. A notice about preserving evidence was sent to Nolan Wells' friends and some investigative entities and warned that litigation is reasonably anticipated. Now, I do want to know, is it normal for them to get a letter, for people to get a letter like this? Because I didn't know that people get like kind of a letter saying, hey, just so you know, we're going to sue you. This is the first time I'm hearing of that. Now, let me know, please, if this is normal and that's what usually happens, because I've never heard of something like this happening. But maybe it's because they want them to preserve evidence. I don't know. But anyways, it says, in connection with the 18-year-old's death, the Sun Herald reports, accordingly, you have an immediate legal duty to preserve all materials of all kinds within your possession, custody, or control that may be relevant in any way to the claims or defenses. The notice reads, according to the paper, this duty includes not only to you, but also your family members. ABC News also obtained one such notice addressed to Ashley Cole, a local judge whose son, Warren Hudson, was with Wells on Horn Island on July 4th before Wells was reportedly missing and later found dead. Both Cole and Hudson have said Wells chose to stay behind on the island, but that Hudson and others left that afternoon because of a pump issue with their boat, which we've heard several times at this point. And even TMZ says that they've been in contact with people who were on the island who can vouch for Warren and the people who were on that boat. Audio and other records show they made a call seeking emergency towing assistance and then left. Wells' parents have sharply questioned the accounts that he separated from his group, calling that out of character behavior, in part because he also didn't have his phone. He appears to have vanished in plain sight at some point that afternoon. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about why that might have been out of character. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that later because I want to reveal some new information to you that has come across my attention, has been brought to my attention that I think you all should know about. And we're going to get into that because I've been thinking a lot about it and thinking more about this case and what could have happened to Nolan. And it's just terrible. It really is just terrible. This whole situation has been really tough just to even watch from afar. And I can only imagine how his parents are feeling, how his friends are feeling, how the community around them are feeling, because I'm sure that stuff like that doesn't happen every day, especially, making national news. I mean, this has probably really shaken everybody up who lives in that community. Now, it says some of Wells' friends have maintained he left his phone on the boat to keep it out of the ocean. His family got it back later that night after Hudson called Wells' mom, Christine Wansley, to report him missing. Both an official and independent investigation into Wells' death are ongoing. His mom, now the administrator of his estate, separately also sent subpoenas to various digital and social media companies seeking further information about Wells' accounts in an apparent hunt for clues about what he did before he died. The subpoenas reviewed by People were sent to Meta, Live 360, Snapchat, TikTok, and WhatsApp, seeking Wells' user info and related data and content from the account. Wells' body was located on July 6 on the northwest end of Horn Island, an undeveloped strip of land off the coast of Mississippi that is a favorite gathering spot for locals. Much remains unknown about his final hours alive. And it seems as though, they go on and basically say what we kind of already know. After he was found dead, authorities said there was no apparent indication of foul play and that Wells could have drowned. The area is known for its dangerous rip currents. His family has sharply challenged that, calling it a rush to judgment and invoking the state's fraught racial history. They've pushed for a thorough and transparent investigation. None of the tech companies subpoenaed immediately responded to people's requests for comment. Neither did the Wells family's attorneys or the friends who received legal notices. An outside autopsy commissioned by his parents did not find severe injuries on his body, but also could not determine his cause of death or rule out foul play. Without further investigation, the official autopsy has not been released. And then Ben Crump obviously said someone knows something. Now I want to get to this because I think that it provides further context to what we just read there. Now, Officer Tatum, he has been on this case. I mean, he has been doing such a great job, you know, and I was talking to one of my family members actually yesterday, and we were watching him cover the case, and we were just kind of talking about how he's a perfect person to be leading this investigation, you know, as far as on the social media side, because he was a police officer. And so I love seeing Officer Tatum use his gifts for the glory of God and to seek the truth and to unify the country. I think, and you know, I was kind of thinking about this. I really hope that this, you know, him leading this investigation is a part of him, you know, almost kind of finding a new path, something that he can do, even though obviously he's already doing so much. But it's like, I hope this is a new venture that he takes on, where he kind of he goes and he investigates cases in person, and he interviews people and does stuff like this, especially after losing Charlie Kirk. I really hope that this has given him some newfound inspiration and stuff like that, because he's doing such a great job. So shout out to Officer Tatum. I'm so proud of him for everything that he's doing. Now, I want to read this. It says, breaking on the day of his funeral, Nolan Wells' parents sent notice to his friends and their families of intention to sue them. On top of that, moments after laying her son to rest, Nolan Wells' mother opened his estate to pursue potential claims surrounding his death. Nolan Wells' friends, who have faced accusations, were heartbroken to miss his funeral. However, due to threats and out of respect for Nolan's family, they made the difficult decision not to attend. Now, I want to zoom in and I want to read this document to you all that I think is important, and it adds context to what we just read in this article. Now, it says here, Nolan Xavier Wells, deceased, letter of representation, notice of duty to preserve evidence, in spoliation, I guess. It says representation. This firm and our co-counsel represent the parents of Nolan Xavier Wells, deceased. We are investigating Nolan Wells' death, which occurred in early days of July 2026 on or in the vicinity of Horn Island, Mississippi. Please address all future communications regarding this matter to me and my co-counsel. Now, I want to stop there for a second, because you would think if the family wanted justice for Nolan Wells and they're trying to get to the bottom of it, that they would be open to talking to people who were actually there. And, you know, in order to actually learn more about what could have happened to their son. But instead, they're saying, no, we're silencing you. We don't want to be around you. We don't want to have anything to do with you. And I really think that this has to do with Ben Crump. I think that he's put them up to this. You know, I'd hate to believe that the family would do this. I think that he's kind of told them, don't talk to Nolan Wells' parents' friends. Don't do that. Our GoFundMe is going well. You know, we're getting to the bottom of this the best way we can. You know, I can only imagine what he's telling them. And it's unfortunate because I can see that the family's hurting and that they want answers, but they're not going to the people who could give them answers. And from my understanding, multiple of Nolan Wells' friends' parents reached out to them and said, hey, we need to talk. And when you hear we need to talk from another parent, you already know what that means. That means we don't want to embarrass you in public. We don't want to embarrass Nolan in public. But we have things to tell you about. There's things that we know about the case that we want you to know. But unfortunately, they're not open to hearing it. And so they say, if you are represented by counsel, please forward this letter to your attorney. And really, another thing is I think they're sending this to the wrong people. If Nolan Wells' friends left, why are you sending them this? Why are you trying to sue them? Because right now it's not looking like they are even responsible for your son's death. So why are you going after them? It looks like you're going down the wrong path and you need to find, it just doesn't make sense. Just saying. Now it says, duty to preserve evidence. You are hereby placed on notice that litigation concerning the death of Nolan Wells is reasonably anticipated. Accordingly, you have an immediate legal duty to preserve all material of all kind within your possession, custody, or control that may be relevant to any way, in any way to the claims or defenses. This duty includes not only to you, but also your family, friends, your family members. It also extends to any person or entity providing services to you, acting on your behalf, or who is subject to your control. Let me put on my glasses for a second. And then I'm taking these off because I don't like, wearing my glasses on camera. It says, under state and federal law, the destruction or failure to preserve evidence may be deemed spoliation, which I've never heard of that, if I'm being honest. I hope I'm even saying that right. I got to look that up. Am I saying that right? I hope so. By a trial court and may result in sanctions, adverse evidentiary rulings, or a negative interference, jury instruction at trial. Mississippi law recognizes that the destruction or failure to preserve relevant evidence after litigation is reasonably foreseeable may constitute spoliation and may warrant appropriate sanctions or adverse evidentiary consequences. And then it lists a court case and says because this matter is may be litigated in federal court, recipients are further advised that the preservation of electronically stored information is governed by Federal Rule of Civil Procedures, which authorizes the court to impose appropriate measures when relevant ESI that should have been preserved is lost because a party failed to take reasonable steps to preserve it and the information cannot be restored or replaced through additional discovery. So basically they are setting a boundary. They are putting a wall up. And I really hope that this doesn't make it harder for them to find what happened to Nolan, because Officer Tatum has been all over this case. And when I tell you he has been all over it, he has really been all over it. He's been getting more information from the friends than anybody has. And you have to wonder why that's happening. You have to wonder why. Now, I think that it's important to talk a little bit about underage drinking. And let's talk about that for a minute, because that's a conversation that hasn't been had enough when it comes to this case. And I can't ignore it. I can't. I was in college once. I graduated in 2024, not too long ago. And I can tell you multiple stories of people who were drinking and they got so drunk to the point where they hurt themselves. I can think, a story that comes to mind is a story about this guy, which I'm going to call him B for the sake of this, just because I don't want to share his name. But one day, my roommates and I decided that we were going to go out and hang out on Campus Corner, which is kind of like a, bar spot where college students hang out. You don't have to necessarily drink, but, all the students go there on the weekend and talk to each other and get to know each other and all that stuff. So my roommate was like, hey, do you want to go? And things like that. And I said, sure, I guess I'll, go with you or whatever. And I was a little bit older than my roommate, so I kind of already was going with the idea in mind that, okay, I'm the oldest one here. I'm kind of looking out for everybody, right? And so we got a ride there because she had a friend who was driving or whatever, and we get out the car and we start walking to Campus Corner. And we noticed there was somebody in the bushes. And, I immediately became concerned, like, who is that in the bushes? And I look and I see, oh my gosh, I know that guy. That's B. Why is he in the bushes? And I said, B, what are you doing? And he was completely out of it. He didn't remember who I was. I had never seen him like this. And I knew him because we had a mutual friend, and we met when we were freshmen in college. But I hadn't seen him in years because he went off to the military and then I guess came back to school. So he ended up graduating later than I did. Well, he was going to graduate later than I did. But anyways, I was surprised to see him, but I saw that he was completely out of it. And I'm thinking, okay, well, let me see if I can, just get him a ride home, things like that. So I didn't know where he lives. I'm trying to my friend and I stayed behind him. We're trying to get him to tell us where he lived because he was completely just gone. And he ended up running in the street. He hit his head on the concrete. So I was worried. I'm like, could he have a concussion? I didn't know what to do. He was bleeding right here. And so I'm just like, okay, what do I do? So I said, okay, I'm going to just try to get him home because he wouldn't even cooperate with us. He was just, I'm telling y'all, like, when I say completely out of it. And this was a big guy, like 6'2", military guy, and I'm 5'6", and not very, large, right? So I can't manhandle this guy, but I'm trying my best to help. So finally, he unlocked his phone. I think we used his facial recognition to do that. And I started kind of looking and I found out, okay, he lives here. We ordered the Uber or whatever. And he wouldn't get in the car. Like, he was just completely drunk and all this stuff. So we drive to his apartment complex and he refuses to get out the car. He refuses to get out the Uber. I said, okay, Uber, I'm sorry for this. I was talking to the Uber driver. I said, if you can just get us back to Campus Corner, because he eventually called his friend and he's like, here's the phone, and I'm talking to his friend. And his friend is like, bring him back right now. And I'm like, well, he doesn't look like he's in the best state. I think he should go home. But I wasn't going to argue too much. If the guy is saying bring him back, fine. I'm going to bring him back. So I convinced the Uber to go ahead and take us back to Campus Corner. Uber takes us back. I said, I'm sorry about this. I promise I'll, obviously give you a tip, that's sizable enough to make up for this. So we get back to Campus Corner. He gets out the car. We finally get him back to his friends. He's still completely drunk, just out of it. Like I said, he had already hit the concrete. He was all over the place, couldn't even walk straight, all this stuff. We get back to the friends. He starts trying to fight his friend who is trying to calm him down, get him to cooperate. He runs off. We don't know where he goes. His friend said he would go get him. And I remember that night, while we were in the Uber, I wrote him a message on his notes. And I've never shared this with anybody publicly, but I remember writing him a message. And I think I may have, I don't remember if I wrote it on his notes or if I just texted him on his phone so he could see it. I think I did that, where I just texted him this. But I think I said something along the lines of, Jesus loves you. It's not too late to come home. Please get yourself together, repent, turn away, and, get your life together. Something along those lines. I just felt like God was leading me to say this. Like, it was very, very important. And I felt it strong in my spirit. So I wrote it. I don't know if he ever saw it. And like I said, he was completely out of it that night. Well, months went by. I hadn't heard anything. To be honest, this guy, when I first met him, he was not the nicest person to me. Like I said, we had a mutual friend, but he always we didn't hang out all the time or anything like that. But from what I remember about him, he was kind of rude to me, but I didn't care in that moment because it didn't matter. He obviously needed somebody to be there for him, so I can put those differences aside. Well, months go by, and I hear from my roommate. And I'll never forget her telling me this. And she says, I have to tell you something. And I said, what is it? What's on your mind? And she said, B died. And I was like, what? And she told me, she said, yep. He was at a gas station. He had came from Campus Corner. He was drunk like a skunk. He started fighting some guys at the gas station, trying to, I guess, get in their car or something. And one of the guys ended up punching him, obviously in self-defense, because he was a big guy. And he fell to the ground and went into a coma. So when I say, please be careful, it's because of experiences like that. Knowing somebody who had so much going for him. A very bright future. And because of drinking, and because he also was, in this situation, he actually was, I think, a boxer. It was rugby. Yeah, he played rugby. And he had been hit in the head several times. He was recovering from a concussion, because I reached out to his parents after this and his family. And I ended up going to the hospital to see him before they pulled the plug. And that's when I really got more information. And I got to hear what happened and see him. And that was really hard for me. To see somebody so young, someone who I knew, their life be over so soon. And that person, he was not underage. He was above 21, but he was still so young. And I know that there are a lot of young people who watch me, who are even younger than I am. And I've been thinking about this literally all day. I've been thinking about it since yesterday, that I had to talk to you guys more about this whole underage drinking thing, because it upsets me to know that Nolan Wills is gone. I don't know the circumstances, but I do know that there was drinking involved and there was potentially drugs involved too. And it's devastating because I think about his family. I think about the families who I've had to sit with, you know, who have lost their children. And it's unfortunate. And I don't want that to happen to anybody. And so I want you to just be mindful. And that's what I'm asking. And that's, you know, I don't know who needs to hear this today. I don't. You know, if you happen to be struggling with drinking, if you happen to be struggling with, and I don't care how old you are, whether you're 17, 16, 13, 25, 42, 63, I don't care how old you are, 79. If you are struggling with drinking alcohol and you're drinking to excess, you're not drinking in moderation, you are getting drunk as a skunk, I want you to know that you're not alone. And there are a lot of people out there who can relate to you. And I want you to know that there is a better way. Please take care of yourself. Okay? I didn't mean to go on this rant tonight, and I'm not trying to go on a rant. But I have to let you know because of what I know. Now, I want to talk to you guys about something that Officer Tatum shared that really was eye-opening regarding this case. And we're at a point in this case where more and more information is coming out. And like they say, what's done in the dark comes to the light. And this is exactly why, and what you're about to see is exactly why I hope the family starts to communicate with the people who were there so they can have peace at night. So they can be able to sleep at night knowing that, you know, maybe they're getting closer to finding out what happened to their son. Because I can only imagine the agony that they're going through. And then I see people like Officer Tatum, who's taking so much initiative, who's going above and beyond to try to help the family, even if they don't even think that they want it from him. But he's willingly giving it. And I want you guys to hear this update that he's providing. Check this out.
And to think that nobody saw it when they're entangled within all these people, I think is a disservice. But what I was told, and you guys, please take in consideration that it's reliable sources. However, the only way to prove the truth in this is if I see it with my own eyes, if the law enforcement have the investigation of this, and also when the toxicology results come out. But people are messaging me and telling me that there is heavy drinking and there's involved. And there.
Notice what he said there, y'all. There was heavy drinking, and then there was, I'm not going to say it because this is YouTube, but you saw what he said there. There were other substances involved. Now, I just talked about heavy drinking. But when you mix heavy drinking with this substance, that takes things to the extreme. You can have fun and not participate in these kind of things. You might actually find that you have more fun not participating in these things. And that's what I want more people to understand.
There's a particular person whom I know this person's name. I'm not going to disclose it. I'm going to go to the police first. and then I will disclose it if it doesn't interfere in the investigation. But this person allegedly was offering people cocaine. And someone close to Nolan, one of his friends, told me that this person was offered cocaine and rejected it from this person.
Wow.
And I was also told, and this person told me that it's over 100% chance that Nolan was using cocaine during this period of time.
Wow.
This person.
Now, what I will say is a toxicology report will either verify that this is true, what Officer Tatum is saying here is true, or if someone has told him misinformation. If someone has told him a lie. But to me, that sounds like there could be some weight to that. Think about what we heard just minutes ago when Nolan Wells' mother was saying that Nolan's behavior that night was out of character. Could this be the reason why his behavior was out of character?
Person said it was 150% sure that when the toxicology comes back, that Nolan will have cocaine in his system. Now, again, taking into consideration, this is somebody telling me this. I'm not saying it's me. I'm not saying it. I'm not able to verify it. But from the sources that I'm getting it from has been consistent, verifiable sources thus far and hadn't been wrong about nothing. So there's a possibility that there's a person that Nolan may have been around or interacted with that is giving the people on this island that Nolan may have taken the coke. And then also, I received a DM from someone DMing another person. Now, I'm trying to leave these names out because I want to not mess this investigation up. I think law enforcement already have this. That alluded to the fact that, and I messaged this person because I want to talk directly to the person that I saw the DM from. And we haven't talked to this person yet. But the person said in the DM to another kid that is associated, not any of the kids that I interviewed to talk to, but that could be associated to some degree, that knew Nolan, that this person wrote a message saying, me and my husband saw you arguing with Nolan, and to the effect of you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison.
Wow.
Now, the person did not say they saw a physical altercation. The person did not say what time they saw Nolan and this other person getting into an argument. Now, this is after Warren, their boat left. This may be somewhere around a little bit before 6, right around 6 or a little bit before 6 p.m. Now, according to the autopsy, which I interviewed a medical...
Wait, I got to play that part again, because didn't he just say that the person didn't reveal what time they heard that? Or what time they saw Nolan having this altercation with said person? Let me play that again, because maybe I didn't understand that right.
This may be somewhere around boat person getting into an argument. Now, this is after Warren, their boat left. This may be somewhere around a little bit before 6, right around 6 or a little bit before 6 p.m. Now, according to the autopsy, which I interviewed a medical examiner about this, there is no evidence of blunt force trauma or an evidence that Nolan got into a physical altercation. So I'm putting all this stuff together, what people are sending me and all that, and I'm trying to find a neutral point to share with you. What I'm thinking at this point, with all that has been said, is that somebody knows exactly what happened to Nolan, or they saw him right before he died. I am not convinced that Nolan was just out there and drowned. It could be. That could have happened. But I'm more convinced now than ever based on what people have been telling me and DMs that I've been seeing, people that have been verified sources, that has to be something with this. There has to be something with Nolan and a girl, and there has to be something with Nolan potentially being in either altercation with somebody, which would lead me to believe that that person saw Nolan last. And that this other person that's giving people, so this person giving people a girl, Nolan, and another person that he may have been in an argument with, to me, are people that need to be investigated.
Right.
And I can say more, but I'm trying not to get anything messed up in this case because I want justice for Nolan, and I want the boys that weren't involved in this to not get caught up in stupidity. So
a couple things. Firstly, this is what it looks like to follow the leads, to act in good faith, to host an investigation and find out what really happened to somebody. Not to prove that there was racism involved, but to get to the bottom of it. Well done, Officer Tatum. Let me start out by saying that. That's making more sense. What he's saying here is making more sense. And I asked you all just a couple days ago, last week. Y'all know sometimes I say a couple of days ago, and that could be last week or 2 days ago. Okay? But I asked y'all last week, who gave Nolan the alcohol? Who gave his friends the alcohol? We talked about this. Now I want to know who provided what was provided. Who provided it? And, I know that there were adults there because one of the young men, Nolan Wells' black friend, was there. And he said that his uncle was with him. Did his uncle know that those young people were heavy drinking and doing what they were doing with the drugs involved? I want to know that. And this is exactly why. Young people, you cannot go with what your friends are telling you to do, and you have to lead by example. You have to. Because if your friend is going to jump off the cliff, are you jumping off the cliff with them? This whole situation could have been avoided. And we have to acknowledge that. And I really hope and pray that as these young people face this situation, and I pray that people realize that they're young, and just because they were drinking on that island, even if they were doing what they were not supposed to be doing on that island as far as the drinking and the other substance that was involved, doesn't mean that they took their friend out. That's not what that means. That doesn't necessarily mean that. But still, they shouldn't have been participating in those things. Because then people get hurt. And you got to consider, what if he overdosed? That is a possibility. These young people are less than 20 years old. So that means that most of them are inexperienced drinkers to begin with. They've been probably drinking less than a year, a lot of them. Their brain is not fully developed. They're participating in adult activities. And when kids do stuff like that, they may not be thinking clearly. Young people, because they weren't kids, they were 18 and up. Probably weren't thinking and didn't understand, okay, if I do these things, they probably didn't understand if they do those things, their frontal lobe is disturbed. It makes it hard for them to make decisions. A lot of young people may not understand that, but that's the reality of the situation. And that's why I encourage people, have fun, do things with your friends, go out, have a good time. But you don't have to follow the crowd. Because just because the crowd is offering you something doesn't mean it's good for you. And as believers, as Christians, you are called to be set apart. You know, when I was in college, I read Proverbs. And I believe in Proverbs either 29 or 30, chapter 30, it really talks a lot about, you know, how you should present yourself, how young men should present themselves, what they should stay away from. And I want to encourage you young men out there to look into that. And young ladies. Because we have a problem in this country. And it's not just with Nolan's friends. It's not just with Nolan. This is a countrywide issue where people are misusing their freedoms. God has blessed us as Americans to have freedom. And we are to use our freedoms to serve each other in love. To lift each other up, right? This is a tough situation. Very tough all the way around.
Well, just so you guys know, I know the names of the person. I believe I know who the girl is. And I know the name of the person that may have been in the argument with Nolan. And there's nothing conclusive that anybody's telling me where there was violence that occurred. But that does not mean that the violence is ruled out. That does not mean that something could have happened in the water. Another report came to me of someone saying that they saw Nolan with a girl, being intimate in the water to the point where it caught their attention. And they believed that they saw Nolan and this girl struggling in the water, not necessarily drowning, but struggling. Like it was obvious enough that the person was concerned when they saw Nolan in the water and he was with this girl. And that the person explicitly said that they were being intimate, which I don't know what that means as far as just kissing, hugging, cuddling, or something else. But that's what has been told to me. And these sources I think, have been legitimized. But what they're saying, I haven't been able to verify. This is just someone saying this, and I'm telling you what I'm hearing. So when the toxicology come back, if there's in the system, to me, that will validate that these people that have been telling me this are being accurate.
Right.
And like I said, somebody really close to Nolan made mention that they're almost 100% sure that he may have been partaking in the use of. And it's unfortunate. I've been knowing this, at least that part, for a while now, but I didn't want to put his name out there like that, given the fact that he just lost his life. But now that we're getting more information, the investigation is going further along, I'm just putting it out there. And we shall see if what is being told is accurate. But I'll finish it with this. I'm leaning more towards believing that somebody directly saw Nolan and know how Nolan died. That's my take on it. I don't think he was just drowning out there messing around. I think that somebody know more than what they're saying. And I don't think it's a lot of people. I think it's a few people that were last on the island with Nolan that know what happened, that seen what happened, or may have knowledge of something that will lead police in the right direction to find out exactly what happened. And I am encouraging you. I know some of y'all names. If it's you, you need to do the right thing. You need to go to authorities And if you're there and you had nothing to do with it, you definitely need to go to authorities and clear your name. I'll say this: some of these people may have already gone to authorities. I don't know. The authorities won't tell me who they interviewed, so we'll go to that next step when it comes.
Now that's how you do it, and I think Officer Tatum handled that respectfully by withholding that information until the appropriate time, until he had more than enough evidence or probable cause to bring that to the public's attention, because nobody wants to embarrass Nolan. No one wants to embarrass anyone involved in this case. And so, like I said, Officer Tatum has been doing a great job, and he's helping the family, even though I don't know if they want his help. A lot of black people are upset with him right now, saying that Officer Tatum is, all the things that they say about him. And I really hope that they are seeing this and they're like, you know what? Maybe he is doing a favor for the family. I hope people kind of see what he's doing here, because he didn't have to go out of his way to go and interview the young people and present that to the public. So I want to kind of note that. Now, I want to know what you all think about everything that we've discussed thus far tonight, because a lot has been said. We've discovered a lot, and that's exactly why I said, you know what, we've got to go live. We've got to talk about this, because there's so many updates in this case. And I just was like, I need to really have a heart-to-heart with you guys, because in every case that I covered, there's always lessons to be learned. I remember when I was covering Austin Metcalf's case, from beginning to end. I was on that case on almost day one, more like day two. And there were so many things that I think a lot of us learned through watching that. And I think there's a lot to learn here. And like I've said, we're still learning as we go. There's still new information coming out. And I'm open to all possibilities. I don't know. I don't know what happened. But one thing I do know is I'm not going to automatically assume that race was involved, and I'm not about to be somebody pushing race stuff like that. That's not helpful. And obviously, Nolan's friends didn't have a problem hanging out with him for years. They weren't treating him in a racist way, or else he wouldn't have been hanging out with him for all that time. He wouldn't have been hanging out with them all that time. I don't think those young men are racist. He had black friends as well, and they all were friends together, because guess what? We live in 2026 and we live in America. This is a melting pot. This is arguably one of the most diverse countries in the world. I grew up around both white and black people. This is 2026. A lot of black people can relate to that. Now, there was somebody who chimed in that I want to comment on, and said some stuff that I thought was very counterproductive and unprofessional, especially because this person is a judge. You would think that this judge would be about getting justice and preserving what is good. But not everybody who has a title lives up to it, unfortunately. Now, before I get to this next update, I do want to thank you all for the love. Thank you for liking, subscribing. If you can, hit that like button, because it does boost us in the algorithm and helps more people to become aware of our conversations and share it helps us share the truth. Also, I want to thank you all for the super chats and super thanks. I see that a couple came through. I was trying to look at one that I missed, but I guess because the chat is live, it's already gone off. But I don't know who it was, but I want to thank you for the $5 super chat that you sent. And also I want to thank Amy Joyce 2301 for this $10 super chat that says, "Amen, Tamera. bring God back and leave booze and drugs that Satan tempts us alone. It's destroying all of us. Amen to that. It's destroying our society. And that's the thing is, at the end of the day, it's something that a lot of Americans can relate to, and it's okay not to be okay. It's not okay to stay that way. It's okay to have an issue, something that you need to bring to God. That's why Jesus Christ came and saved us all. Because we've all got issues. We've all got things that we need to work on. We all have our hang-ups and things like that. And that's why we need Jesus. We need the Holy Spirit to live inside of us, to breathe inside of us, right? To show us the way. We need to focus and read God's word so that we gain wisdom, so that we gain insight on how to live. And none of us are perfect. We all got our things. So I have no judgment for anybody who struggles with drinking or drugs or alcohol or whatever the case may be. I'm saved by grace through faith. And I want everybody to come to know the Lord Jesus Christ and to be healed and set free and delivered. Because I know he does that. I met Christ when I was very young. 12 years old. And it's been a journey knowing God. And it hasn't been perfect. In college, I really, especially the beginning of my college years, there was a part of me that kind of struggled to, not necessarily struggle with my faith per se, but I wasn't really plugged into a church when I first started college. And I found myself kind of drifting a little bit. And then I got plugged into a church and I finally started having community around me. And that uplifted me and held me accountable. And they held me accountable and helped me to really get to know the Lord. And I started wanting to read my Bible because my pastor was so good at sharing, God's word and explaining it in a way that I understood. And that was interesting, because he was kind of shedding light on the historical facts about it. Like I wanted to know, okay, what was Israel like at that time? Tell me all the facts. And my pastor was really, my college pastor was really good about explaining the kind of background stuff. And I became interested. Next thing you know, I'm like, I want to read God's word. And then eventually I've gotten to share that with you guys almost daily, in our community tab. But I say that to say we all start somewhere. And so I want this story to be, one that leads people to Christ. And that's the thing, I know that we cover the news on this channel, but this is a ministry. This is a ministry. And so I want to thank you guys for being a part of this. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about Judge Mathis, because he came out and he decided to provide his take on Nolan Wells and what he believes, and I want to check it out. So let's do that.
Judge Mathis, happy to have you back, my man. So much I want to get into. Had to bring you back on to follow up on this Nolan Wells case, man.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes, indeed. So much to get into. I don't want to waste no time. I want to get right into it. How you feel about this second autopsy that was done on Nolan Wells?
Yes, I think when we last spoke, we were awaiting the forensic autopsy because the original autopsy performed by the county examiner, we just weren't convinced it would be independent, quite frankly, because we weren't getting enough information from law enforcement. And so the forensic autopsy came back, and lo and behold, even though they're trying to downplay it, and I understand Ben Crump and NAACP and others don't want to try and jump to conclusion or step too far out, but the forensic autopsy showed that there was what they call discoloration. No, I call them bruises in the back of the head, appearing that someone has had their hand pressed at the back of their head, at the back of Nolan's head.
That is not accurate. That's not what was actually reported. And we've gone through this. The bruising, the trauma that he's referring to was actually internal. It was deep inside of Nolan's skull. It wasn't surface level. So let's deal in reality, please. Please, let's deal in reality. Spreading misinformation, spreading lies is not going to do anything but cause more division. Notice what's happening here. Judge Mathis is building a narrative because he is a social justice warrior. And I'm sure you guys have heard about social justice warriors. They are undercover Marxists. Their job is to divide and conquer because they hate America. They don't like the fact that America has come a far way, but they don't want to leave America. They'd rather stay here and reap all the benefits and become wealthy and still complain instead of moving somewhere else. If America is that bad and you think that America is a racist place, why are you here? You can leave. This is a free country. Nobody's begging you to be here.
That's concerning to me. And so hopefully we'll get some more insight on that. I'm not sure. It seems like there's another opportunity for them to investigate something physiological. I'm just not sure because as far as I knew, the forensic autopsy is as far as you go, but we'll see. But yeah, that's what causes new concern. And then you've had different stories coming out.
Did he mention the toxicology report that we're still waiting on?
From the teenagers. One of the young men himself spoke out about it, claiming they had begged Nolan to get on the boat, and that he wouldn't. Then there's the woman that he's supposed to have stayed back with, I think her name Katie or something. Well, he was supposed to have stayed back with Katie. That was their story. However, Katie's friend says that Katie hasn't. She saw him only in passing on the island, didn't stay with him, and Katie isn't saying anything at all. So it's a lot of moving parts here, and I'm just hoping it's not.
Now, people have been asking about Katie, and Katie, from my understanding, she did say something. I think I talked a little bit about that. Or was that her sister? Because I thought I read a quote from her and then I read something from her sister. I'll take that back. I'm not 100% sure that Katie herself has spoken out, but I know at least her sister has spoken out on her behalf. And I don't know what's keeping Katie silent if she hasn't spoken out. I'm not sure. I also don't know if Katie has been interviewed by investigators, but I bet more than likely she has. There are more than likely a lot of people who have been interviewed at this point, but we simply don't know for sure because we're not privy to that information. So let's just to keep that in mind.
One of those, quite frankly, and if his friends didn't have anything to do with it and they truly left him behind, etc., etc., he has discoloration, bruises on the back of his neck. Something happened. And quite frankly, this is Mississippi, where in 1955, which sparked the civil rights movement, Emmett Till was killed for so-called whistling at a white woman. And now we're hearing Nolan Wells stayed back to be with a white woman, and he turns up dead with bruises behind his neck. That's the context I'm putting this in.
Emmett Till and Nolan Wells, two totally different stories. Now, I know that there is a picture floating around on the internet, and you can see Emmett Till's mom and dad. And then on the other side, you see Nolan Wells' parents. And there is a resemblance between, a facial resemblance between Emmett Till's mom and Nolan Will's mom. I mean, it's undeniable. These two women do look alike, but their stories are not the same. Emmett Till was like a teenager, and men showed up and brutally, took him out. I don't think that when it comes to Nolan Wells, as we've already talked about, and we know from the report, I don't think that Nolan Wells was beat up and all of that stuff. This young man was an athlete. He was very strong. He was surrounded by a lot of friends. But also, this story is different because there were drugs and alcohol involved. And so, I wouldn't compare the two because they're not the same story. This is a different time. And to bring up a white woman, and what does it matter that Katie was white? Why does that matter? She's not even that much a part of the story as far as we know. All we know is that, he said that he was going to stay with her, and then she said that he said he was going to leave. That's as far as we know. But do you see what's happening here? And it goes deeper than the surface. These are Marxists. These are black Marxists. And I remember discovering black Marxists when I was a young girl. And I was learning about the civil rights movement, and I had gone to an event because my grandma is really like into that kind of stuff where she wants, her grandchildren to know about black history and things like that. So we went to a Black History event, a parade, the Martin Luther King parade, and we got to go to a museum and learn about black history and things like that. And it's good to know about black history and American history and how far we've come and things like that. But it was in that moment, I was probably like 6 years old at the time, and I was hearing them talk about it and how they were talking about it, that I realized there was a difference between me and them. Because the way that they were talking about it was the history was still, modern day. Like we were still facing it. And I was thinking in my 6-year-old brain, majority of my classmates are white. Seems like we've come a far way. I have white friends. I'm in a white community. I don't see color. I think my friends don't see color. We're playing together. We're having a great time. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm learning about something that happened in the past. Not something, I wasn't thinking like this is present day happening. That's when I got my first taste of what black Marxists do and how they think. And it's like a career for them. It's a lifestyle for them to stir up racism, to keep racism going in order to feel something, like they're championing something. And I think it's not good, and it's not godly. Nothing in the Bible is telling you that that's how we should be doing things.
It's Emmett Till, perhaps, all over.
Wow, so you feel like the dynamics between Nolan Wells and Emmett Till is similar?
Well, the dynamics are the same. He's with a white woman, or allegedly said something with, or however you view it, with a white woman, and there's a suspicion that white men killed him. And that was the case with Emmett Till. He so-called whistled as a kid. 13 was he? Whistled so-called the woman at the store. White woman says he whistled at her. What happened? White men killed him. And that's why I'm making that analogy. But it could altogether be untrue. But I'm making the analogy as a possibility. And that is the case of my thought processes.
So it was actually...
Notice he said his thought process, his mindset. You gotta watch what you think.
bruises behind his neck.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, what else? Why is it only there in the back of your neck, which is coincidentally how you drown somebody? You put the head in the back of the neck and not let them up, and they try and push up, but you got the head down, so the head bruises in the back of the neck because somebody tried to hold it down or did hold it down.
I mean, that could be a possibility. Could there have been somebody on the island that held Nolan's head down? I don't know. Could be possible. What do y'all think about that theory? First time I'm hearing it.
I'm only presenting the facts, and I only made the analogy to Emmett Till because it's the same optics. However, do I know whether it's the same? Do I know any of the factors that I'm suggesting is accurate? No, but
then why are you suggesting it? Especially the race thing. Why are you suggesting it when you have, I don't know if he's still on air, but, you know, Judge Mathis has been on TV for a long time. I don't know if he's still got, if he's still in, I don't know if he has any new episodes that are airing and stuff like that. But he's been on TV for a long time. His audience is both white and black. So why would you bring that part up? Why would you divide your audience like that? Now, he just made a good point. He just asked a good question. Is it possible that somebody was holding Nolan's head down? But was the rest of that necessary? I don't think it was.
I am making observations about the facts as I see them. And then I am, yes, speculating. And quite frankly, in the law, you're not supposed to speculate. You're supposed to have hard facts. But in this case, since nobody's given us any hard facts, we can't get in the information that we need, then yes, we're left to only speculate.
His organs was missing during his autopsy, right?
Yeah, and they allege now that that's standard. I'm not sure about that, so I can't tell you. I don't know about autopsies in that sense. But they said one of his lungs and then parts of his throat, and I read that that's typical, but I just don't know. And I'm not one to try and find something that is not there. I mean, we have enough that's there that we don't have to go looking too further. Did they take the organs out? Did they do whatever with the throat? Well, that's down the line. What we do know, because we don't know why and results and what that process is. Are they taking tissues
Somebody said,
from...
Shout out to Anthony in the comment section who wrote, in the conversation then. In the conversation. Instead, he keeps going.
Those organs and analyzing them for further evidence or insights, etc. We don't know. What we do know is that he left and was left and drowned, and his buddies are not speaking, and the one that just spoke about it acted as if they pressured him to leave and he wouldn't. However, they left his phone. They have that. They don't present it to his mother as an average person would. Time I get back, he didn't come with us. He left his phone. I'm calling your parents. And I understand that they didn't even call him immediately after finding out that he had been drowned.
That's not accurate. They didn't even know he had been drowned. Warren called Christine, notified her as soon as he thought that something could be wrong. When he saw that, people were worried and he was worried, he notified her as soon as possible. Now, I know at the beginning, Christine made it seem as though nobody said anything to her. The parents didn't notify her, that the young people who were involved didn't notify her. But that simply was not the case, according to Warren's testimony. He was the first person to call the Coast Guard. And like I said before, I hate to have to say this, because you would expect that the parents are, given the most accurate information. And obviously there's that part of me that's just like, man, I hate to have to correct the record like that. But what they're saying is just simply not true. We have to deal in reality. And we don't want to put the kids, the young people who are involved, in danger because you're not giving the facts properly. I don't want to see more people come up missing. That wouldn't be good either. Just like the Wells family had a son, these other families have sons. They have daughters. They're young. They're in fear for their life. We have to think about everybody involved. They all have bright futures. We cannot just focus on this moment. We've got to think about the future. We got to think about the long-term consequences and how this could affect people. These young people have the rest of their life ahead of them. A lot of them just started college or just graduated high school. They still haven't gotten married yet. They still haven't had kids yet. They've got long lives to live. We need to protect them just like we are doing our best to protect and preserve the legacy of Nolan Wells.
Well, that he had drowned. So that's certainly the time that you call and say, hey, I see he's drowned. I have his phone. No, they waited. And in fact, some of the information had been deleted from that phone that had been there. And put all those things together and the discoloration on the neck and I'm convinced that someone did something wrong. Yes, I am.
If it was bruises behind his neck, yeah, that needs to be looked into. It sounds like he got into an altercation.
And they allege that there's video of him getting into an altercation. I'm not sure if I've seen it or not. I've been paying close attention, but either I've heard or seen that he was involved in an altercation there. And who knows what that altercation is about once again. See, brothers, young black boys being raised in upper income white communities, nearly exclusively white, 95%. In many instances, your friends don't feel about you as you may feel about them.
How does he know that's accurate? So you're telling me that Judge Mathis has the ability to read the minds of every single white person and determine what they believe about black people? That is, wow. I mean, he must not even be human at this point if he's able to do that. Because last time I checked, I didn't know that any of us could read people's minds. We should be basing decisions off of people's character, not their skin color. Just saying. You don't know what one person is thinking or what one person isn't thinking. And I can only speak for myself, but my white friends are some of my best friends. And I'm sure there are other black people who can relate to that. Clearly, Nolan could relate to that because he was around a lot of white people. And even the black young man who was also there spoke about how even his white friend's parents loved him. And I can relate to that too. I've met amazing white people who treat me like family, who are a part of my family. So, miss me with that.
There is a racial barrier that exists and will always exist.
No, it will not. I rebuke you in Jesus' name. You want to know who thought like this? Or who suspected that black people would think like this? Thomas Jefferson. He talked about how he believed that black people would never forgive Americans, would never forgive white people for putting them in slavery. That was one of the things that he wrestled with. Because he truly believed that there would be black people who think like Judge Mathis. And unfortunately, you have people who think like that, who cannot let the past go. And it's unfortunate because it's keeping them in prison. It's keeping them locked up in their minds. And they're missing out on so many opportunities to connect with people. They're missing out on so many opportunities to learn, to grow. When you're in spaces with people who come from different backgrounds than you, and I'm not just talking about race, I'm talking about culture, I'm talking about perspective, you're going to learn some things. You're going to become a well-rounded person. You're going to be able to speak to people from different walks of life. You're going to be able to relate to them. And like I said, it's not just about color, it's about culture, it's about experiences. And I'm telling you, it changes you. I think about all the people that I've met over my life, you know. I think about my time in university and how I was surrounded by not just Americans, but 40% international students. I hung out with a lot of Europeans, a lot of people from different backgrounds. And I learned a lot of things. I spent time abroad. Those kind of experiences change you, help you to become well-rounded. And they lead to more opportunities where you can go in spaces that some people can't go in because you have the ability to connect with people. And it leads to a more fulfilling life. And so that's why I encourage people to be open. We shouldn't have to have these conversations in 2026 when everybody's able to go to the same restroom. Everybody's able to go to the same restaurants. This is stuff that everybody kind of knows. Be open. Be willing to learn. Broaden your horizons. I mean, come on. You know what I mean?
Realities are always going to be different. And you're always going to be looked at by your white friends differently. And so to that extent, he may not have understood that to be the case. He may have had trust for those he shouldn't have. He may have had a particular mindset that wasn't quite as rational as it should be when you're growing up in that environment.
As if you can trust all black people. He's talking like black people don't kill other black people every weekend. He's talking like black on black crime is not a real issue. He's talking like what we're seeing in the black community is not happening. Broken families, killings, all this stuff. You would think that white people are the biggest problem for the black community. And no, that is not the biggest issue. White people are not the black community's problems. It's the black people who are causing the problems to their own communities. But that's not something that they want to talk about. That's not something that they want to acknowledge because they like the culture that they're living in. They're comfortable with the messiness. And it's got to stop. And that's why I don't mind separating myself. I like being set apart. I like being a city on the hill. I like being a light in the dark. And there are so many people watching this who feel the same way. We don't want to be a part of the foolishness. We're not interested in bowing down to the culture. Because we don't have to. God has not given us the spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. We have authority in Christ Jesus. And we know it. So this kind of behavior, this kind of stuff, I say let these people think what they want. And let's keep winning.
Sometimes you're irrational and you think you can do the same things they do and get away with it. No, you can't. Your black behind will go to jail and they'll go to counseling.
Let them be who they are. Let them do what they're going to do. You can't cast your pearls to swines. Some people are going to get it and some people are not. And I speak for the people who are getting it, and I speak for the people who want to get it. The other people who want to stay where they are, that's fine. Stay where you are. But we're going to keep winning. We're going to keep going because we see the right way to go. We see it paying off. And we're not going to be distracted by the noise. Who has time for that? When you're learning so much, when you have come so far. I don't even know if these people who think like this realize how much life they're missing out on. How many experiences they're missing out on. But they are missing out. And I hope and pray they wake up. But that's going to be up to them because at the end of the day, we all have choices to make. And God's not forcing them just like He didn't force us. But if you open your eyes and you're open to a different perspective and you have a level of openness, there's so much that can happen that's so positive. It's not about color. It's not about race. It's about culture. It's about values. Surrounding yourself with the right people. People who are going where you want to go. Understanding that bad company corrupts good character. So hang out with good company. Hang out with people who are going somewhere. If you have a dream to want to become a doctor, it may not be beneficial for you to be hanging out with people who are gangsters. It may not be beneficial for you to be hanging out with people who aren't moving in the direction to become a doctor. If you want to become a lawyer, same thing. Or whatever you want to do that's productive in this society. You want to surround yourself with the right people. And hang out with older people too if you're a younger person. Hang out with people who are where you want to be in life. I think about my friends who are way older than me, like they're generations ahead of me. And how much information, how much wisdom they've invested into my life. And that's because I was open to it. I didn't care if they were black, white, or, I didn't care. If you're a great friend and you're teaching me things and I'm teaching you things and this is a beneficial relationship, let's be friends. There's so much you can learn from people when you're just like open to it. But make sure it's the right people. That's the thing. And when you're young, like I am, that's the challenge sometimes, even at any age. It's finding your people. I don't even know if your people is the right term because everybody belongs to God. We're just stewarding the relationships that we have. But everybody belongs to God. But finding, a group of people that you can hang out with. It takes time. Don't be afraid to change it up. Don't be afraid to say, you know what? I enjoyed hanging out with these people for a little bit, but Now I'm seeing some decisions being made, and I'm not on board with that. So, you know what? I don't mind being by myself for a little while until I meet some other people who may match better with me. Or, you know, I really like hanging out with this person. They're a good influence on me. Sometimes they challenge me, and I don't necessarily agree with them on every little thing, but we have the same values. And the good outweighs the bad. So I'm going to keep hanging out with that person. Because community is important. It's very important. And it's necessary. And so I just think that's something to remember, because when you're in the society and you're hearing things that are happening in culture, it's easy to start believing everything you hear. It's easy to start believing, oh, what people like Judge Mathis are saying must be true. It must be true, but it's not true. All you got to do is look around you. That's all you really got to do. And you'll notice, you know what? Actually, we're not living in 1960. This is not 1940. Now, I want to shout out the Tamera Nealy collection. You all have been asking me about shirts and things like that. I want to make sure you all know that you can purchase Your Prayer is Our First Resort and not our last t-shirt today. We have shirts that are made for men and also women, also unisex. This is a unisex shirt, but technically I designed this for men in mind. But ladies can wear it too. I was wearing the black one the other day, and I felt cute in it, you know. So ladies, y'all know how to kind of make it up and make it your own. So just so you know, there's this shirt that's available. Let me show you the other one. And then there's also this one, and this one it's designed for women. I don't suggest men pick up this shirt, guys. Please don't pick it up, because you send me a picture of you. You know, if you're a guy and you email me a picture of you in this shirt, I'm gonna have to roast you. Okay? Because this was not made for you. Okay? So anyways, there's plenty of different colors, as you can see. And there's going to be another shirt drop coming soon. I'm thinking probably August or September, with fall coming, with winter coming. Long sleeve options will be available. Also, different designs will be available. And so I want you guys to be prepared for that. But I want to know also how you all are liking the collection. I hope you're liking it a lot. We're also going to be offering other things on, you know, from the collection. So please be on the lookout for that. I want to thank you all for supporting, you know, this collection. As you guys know, I designed these shirts myself. And I love to design and to, you know, take time to just use my creative abilities, because I like being creative and doing art and stuff like that, and stuff like this is just right up my alley. So thank you all for supporting the Tamera Nealy collection and just supporting the show in general. I mean, every single day, every single week, since we've launched the store, we've been getting orders left and right. I mean, it's just been amazing. And I just love you guys, and I hope you all are really liking the products. And just know that there are more products coming soon. I see you guys kind of laughing in the chat, talking about, I see Anthony said talking about some, I'm on it. Anthony, don't send me a picture of you in this pink shirt, all right? You know, don't do it, because then I promise you, I'm gonna have to show everybody. I'm gonna have to show everybody. So, yeah, I have a white one of these. I really like this one. I like all of them, but Also, y'all, be sure to send me pictures of you in the shirts, because I haven't got a lot of pictures. April sent me a picture of her in the shirt, and I appreciate April for doing that. I want to be able to share pictures with others, with you guys, of other people who have bought the shirt, giving their review and kind of saying, what their experience is and if they like the product and recommend it. So please be sure to send your pictures to the Tamera Nealy Show at gmail.com, and you'll be featured on the channel. Your pictures will be featured. That would be awesome, and I appreciate you all. So I think that we talked about a lot tonight, and I'm so happy that I got to spend some time with you. I love talking to y'all. I want to go live more. Like I said earlier, when I had to kind of stop the show for a split second because I heard my siblings talking and they're real excited. I guess y'all didn't hear them, but my brother was saying, "Oh, I'm so excited! I just wanted to tune in to Mara's show," because my family calls me Mara and stuff like that. He's like, "I'm so excited," and because I sent him the link, but I did show 2 hours ago. This is the thing about siblings, is they may not be there when you want them, but I guess they're right on time. I don't know. But anyways, I sent him the link, and next thing you know, he's just like on here while I'm on live. I'm like, I had to text him real quick and say, "Hey, please hang up." He's like, "Okay." But he was really excited because he's been wanting to come on the show. So I'm going to have to bring my brother on at some point and let him come on and hang out with y'all, if y'all want that. Now, anyways, there was one more super chat I wanted to shout out because I want to make sure I get everybody. Barbara, thank you so much for this $199 super chat. And thank you to everybody who sent gifts tonight. Also, thank you to my moderators. I have some of the best moderators. Actually, the best moderators on the entire internet. I've also got the greatest audience. You all are the best subscribers. This is the best show on YouTube on planet Earth, all right? So I want to thank y'all for making this show possible. The chat was amazing tonight. Seemed like y'all had great conversations. And let's do more of that. Also, let's have more live conversations where you all come on and share your thoughts. Because I want to know what you all are thinking. I want to know what's happening in culture. And that's why we've got to have conversations, is because there's so much happening and people are being shaped every day. Our young people are being shaped every day. I have my sister is telling me things as far as she's like, she hears things that I say and then, or maybe she'll hear something that her friends tell her, especially like about the Carmelo Anthony case. She heard some things from her friends. Then she heard me talking about it and she's like, that actually makes sense, what I was saying. And so we have to have conversations so that everybody's kind of aware of, the truth in situations, because right now there's a lot of false information being spread around, all in the name of BLM and, all of that stuff. And a lot of people are just spreading hate because they want to. And it's unfortunate because it's causing a lot of division. And we can't have that because we've come so far as Americans. I mean, think about our 250-year history. Think about 1776, where we started then and where we are now. So much happened, even in the first 100 years of this country. Slavery ended. People thought that was impossible. 100 years later, everybody's hanging out and getting along. People thought that was impossible. But there were people who had dreams, who saw a better future. And then they created it because their thoughts were obviously producing their actions. And God was motivating a lot of people to do the right thing. And so we've got to keep thinking good thoughts and keep, hoping for the future. Keep seeing a positive future for our country. So that 250 years from now, I can only imagine where our country will be then. In an even greater place. Our country will be on fire for God. Excited about the things of God in the next 250 years. That's what I see. I see us continuing to go in the right direction. And that's my prayer. Now, I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe button, join the conversation below because I want to know what you think. What did y'all think about this show? I saw in the comment section that some of y'all were saying this is the best show that we've had on this channel. Is that accurate or is it not? I want to hear. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I sure did. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. And I love you guys if you're catching the replay. Thank you for watching this all the way through. It means a lot to me, and I just want to let you all know how much I love you and appreciate you. Thank you for believing in my dreams. Thank you for supporting me and, trusting me. It means a lot. And so I love you guys. I hope you all have a good evening. It is 11:10 here. So hopefully you all get some good sleep so you can get up and work real hard tomorrow. All right? So I love you. Thank you for watching. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe button, join the conversation below. I love you, and you'll hear from me soon.